About events in JavaScript. The way that we normally execute programs as we're getting started in programming is we have things that execute procedurally, which means it executes in order, sort of like an ingredient list or an instruction list for a recipe that you might be making, like, break the eggs, add the butter, swish it around in the pan, etc. And so you go from beginning to end and then you're done. However, a lot of programming is not like that. A lot of programming is event-based, particularly when we're talking about things that have an interface or a graphical user interface. So a web browser is something that has objects or real-world things you can click on all over it. And rather than all of the JavaScript in the page executing the second that you bring up the page, oftentimes these objects are waiting for you to interact with them, be it a button or a link or whatever. And then once you click on them, then they execute some JavaScript. So like these kittens, graphical user interfaces are oftentimes just waiting for you to give them some instructions and then they'll run with it. Or maybe like a Coke machine, you press the button and then hopefully the Coca-Cola or whatever else comes out. All right, so let's learn some programming as it relates to that right now. But first, let me show you one other thing. If you go over to an instructional site like W3 Schools and go over to JavaScript, there under Events, you can scroll down a little way and eventually you'll see some, but not all, of the common HTML events, meaning that as you interact with something like a button that's on a page or a link or anything like that, you can add some JavaScript to it so that on click or on mouse over or on mouse out. So this would be on mouse over, this home button, then on mouse out. On load for the page, on key down for when you press a key. So these are the type of things that could happen in a page or in an interface, and then JavaScript could be executed after you do that. So let's go ahead and open up an HTML page and practice that. So I've created a new folder and I'm going to create a file and I'll call it events.html. Then I want to add in my HTML template, so I'll do just an exclamation point return and it fills things out nicely. And let's have the first thing that I put on this page be a button. So I'll just go button type equals button, and then I'm going to write in here, click me. All right, so I'll hit save, and then I'm going to right click on here and say open with live server since I have that plugin installed. And after having done that, this page comes up, and if I click, nothing happens because I haven't programmed a listener associated with that click event. But here's something that I could do. I can go on click, so this is one of many attributes like on mouse over, on double click, etc. I can put this event listener here, and then I'm going to say I want to do, how about an alert? And let me minimize this a little bit. So I'll say alert and say you clicked me. There we go. Looks like all the syntax highlighting looks nice, so I don't think I have any problems. I'll hit save. I'll go back over to my other page. Click. Yay, it worked. Okay, so intuitively we would expect that a button would have an on-click event, but really most HTML tags will support an on-click event and some type of handler for that event. So let's, for giggles, try something else. We'll do h1, and in there I'll put click me, again, exclamation point. And if I bring this back over, click, 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 click. Of course, it does nothing because it's just text. But what happens if I copy and paste this right there all the way up to the tag, that same attribute into here, and I hit save? It looks identical. It acts identical, but if I click, it does the pop-up. Whoa. All right, what else? We can do other very mundane tags and have them have the same capabilities. So for example, let's do a paragraph. and I'll say some random text in a paragraph. Click me. All right, and again, this isn't going to do anything, but if I grab this event handler and I say, you clicked me in the paragraph. All right, good enough. We hit save. All right, that's looking good. Let's come over here and try that. So hover over, nothing interesting, click, it works. Sweet. All right, so let's try one last, just kind of regular one. Let's do a link. So if I do href equal, and let's just pretend I have some other file in here, index.html. I don't currently, but if I did, I can say, let's see, your wildest dreams are here. All right, so just a basic link on a page. There we go. And if I click on it, it should die because there's nothing there. All right, let's go back out. All right, now let's put some fun into this. Let's give it a handler. So we'll say on, oops, not in the double quotes, on click equals, and in these quotes I will put alert fooled you. All right, and then after that I'm going to put a semicolon as if I ended a statement in programming code, and then I'm going to say return false. All right, so we saw before that when we clicked on the link it actually went to a page that wasn't there. Let's see what happens now. It says fooled you, and it's not going anywhere. So what's happened is with that return false syntax, we're able to override the natural behavior of something on the page and make it do something else, which in this case is not act like a link and go somewhere. Okay, high-level ideas to think about here. When we have in an HTML tag an attribute that is one that supports JavaScript within the quotes, we can put an entire JavaScript program in those quotes if we want. We just need to separate it by semicolons for as many different statements or commands as we have. Now that's not typically the best way to do it. It's not a very elegant way to write things, but just so you know, this is just a container for writing in JavaScript code or referencing some JavaScript code that we put somewhere else. All right, so let's go ahead and build on this idea a little bit here. I'm gonna grab this h1 tag and I'm gonna put it at the top of my page. And right here, I'm gonna put in some JavaScript in script tags, script, and I'm gonna add a counter that counts up within this onClick event here. So I'll do let I count equals 0, and then in here I'm going to say on click equals, oops, sorry, I did on click equals. I was looking off the page. I'm going to say I count plus plus, so I'm going to increment this counter first and then semicolon. So I'm going to begin a new statement, and then I'm going to write out to the screen something. So I'll say console.log and then do I count. Okay, so it's done two different things. Because it's the last item in a list, I don't need to end it with a semicolon. So I'll go ahead and hit save. And let's come over here. And I can't see anything yet because A, I haven't clicked on it, and B, I haven't shown the console. So I right click, inspect, console. All right, and so let's go ahead and start clicking. Click, 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 click. So every time I do a click on this, it counts up. And then also note that even though the variable was declared over here in this script block, that same variable is accessible over here. So whenever you declare something in JavaScript anywhere in the page, you can drop back into JavaScript and other places and start referencing that information. So all the JavaScript variables in the page can work together and be used in different places. Okay, so I wanted to do that kind of as a proof of concept that you could generally write code in between quotes here, but that's not generally how we like to do things. Generally, if we're going to do something sophisticated, we'll put it in a function and then call that function. So what am I doing in this current link or this current HTML tag? Well, I'm counting up. That's incrementing. So let me do a little function called incrementer. So I'll do function incrementer, and then I'm going to take that same stuff I have in here and move it over because I don't like it there. That's kind of ugly. All right, so I put it in there. I'll do save and let it do the reformatting. All right, so now my function is ready to go and ready to be used, and there's nothing in here now. Well, rather than just doing like these standalone statements, now I'm just going to call the function. And keep in mind, if this was a more interesting application, maybe this could be dozens of lines of code in one or more functions. So I go ahead and I put that in there, and I hit save. All right, let's go back over to this page. And I go click, 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 click. Okay, so the same functionality has been retained even though I moved the functionality out of this attribute right here and I put it into a function that's over there. All right, so now we know how it works. All right, I'd like to give you a chance to try out something, do a little coding challenge. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to create a button. Just an HTML button like I recently did, and it says, click here to buy a delicious 1,000 calorie donut. When you hover over the button, display a pop-up that says, don't do it, it's not healthy. And when you click on the button, display a pop-up that says, Fat Pill is on its way. So use that W3 Schools link that I was showing you earlier, where it has different types of events that you could put as an attribute within an HTML tag. Try using those ones to figure out this functionality. So go ahead and pause the video now and then we'll do this. Okay. I've already completed this exercise and it looks like this. So let me copy and paste all of this information and I'm going to paste it on top of this current document. We'll come back over here and I'm going to close this. I don't need that. So I click on it. It says, don't do it. It's not healthy. And then, oh, I still can't click on it. So what's going on here? Well, the on mouse over pops up an alert box, which makes it so we can't do the on click. So this challenge in a way was a little bit of a trick because you're not supposed to be able to do both of them. If you really wanted to, you could mouse over and then hit escape and then click on that and that would work, but that's not really the way we would want to do it. If you want, take another minute and try and use logic to write some functions that would determine, well, how about, here would be the next challenge. Make it so that it does display this message the first time you go through, but after you mouse over it a second time, it never does it again. So you'll need some additional variables, possibly a function to work through this. Give yourself a few moments and then I will be right back with you. Okay, if you are done, here's what you could use. So you could use some script tags and set a Boolean value and say, have I displayed it, yes or no? And then on that mouse over, you could put in a little if statement here. If displayed warning is exactly equal to false, so you haven't displayed it yet, it does the alert, and then it sets that variable to something. And once that gets set to true, this is never going to evaluate to true again, so this block in between the curly braces is not going to run. All right, so let's just kind of watch. Let me take this body script. We'll copy and paste it. Body. All right. Don't want to repeat the head tag there. Okay, looks like things hopefully are okay. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, so the first time I mouse over, okay, it does that. Doesn't do it again. And so now I can click on this as many times as I wanted. Okay, well, have fun experimenting with other types of events. Have a good day.